Thank you so much for that introduction, Alexa, and thank you. I just want to extend a big thanks to Michael and his team for putting together this event. Shout out to the DJ who's been playing great music. Woo! And yeah, so we'll get straight into the second fireside chat. Yeah, one of the things that it's my first time in such an event like this, and just seeing the energy, positivity, youthfulness, and just great vibes. It's really nice to see. So the basis of our chat today is building trust. And it's funny because at the start of the week, I was at QSTP for another fireside chat with CEO of Explain, Hassan Sawaf, and one of the first things that he brought up in the fireside chat is building trust and talking about how trust is the currency for startups. And I thought that was so timely because I'm about to do a panel on building trust. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of discussion about not so much the technical skills of being a founder or being an enterprise, but the soft skills that you need to have. Because at some point in our journey as a founder or a representative or a spokesperson of your company, you're going to have to build connections with people. You're going to build trust with VCs, investors, people sitting on the board, partners, sometimes people from the media, that's me. So how do we navigate this world of building trust and connections and relationships in the ecosystem? I want to first start with Haitham. You've obviously spent so many years in this ecosystem, and in your view, what does trust really mean in the GCC business culture, and how is it earned?
Oh, okay, this works now? All right, well, thank you very much for having me here. I want to congratulate the guys from Builders Tribe for doing an amazing job, honestly, today. We don't have events like these, too many events like these in Doha, so please give them a big round of applause. Good job, really. Um, so I've been doing this for over 10 years now in Doha. I have a couple of years outside Doha, so I've dealt with a lot of investors, partners in Doha and outside Doha, in the GCC. During the blockade, we had a lot of interesting times, obviously. The one thing that is so unique about this region is about taking things personal, not professional. I mean, obviously you have to be professional, but the trust is built here by being or building personal relationships. This is good and bad because, first of all, you have to build that personal relationship and it has to be genuine, not just, I'll be there when I need you. And that means that you go sit with them, you have a karak at some point for, discussions. A lot of discussions, you'll just meet with them that have nothing to do with business. You'll attend weddings, you have to build the relationship on time, right? When people trust you on a personal level, that you know that they can trust you on a professional level. And I've seen, you see a lot of people trust people that don't have the skills, but they know that they can have the skills just because they personally trust them. There's a guy that I was kind of advising on his startup, and he had everything kind of done well, but the last part, he was like, okay, now how can I get investors? I was like, do you go and sit with people in majlis? It's important to have friends and be at their majlis. But when I was saying it's good and bad, it comes to the part where someone also asked me, okay, then what does it mean to be a female founder? Look, I have no idea. I don't have the answer. I think we need somebody to answer that. But it's still the same fundamental fact exists. It has to be on a personal level. You need to have shown that you can be trusted. And then the parts of consistency comes in. Because I've done, in the past 10 years, my wife and I, we started about 15 companies. And so it went all the way from me trying to meet with partners, investors, to convince them to buy into my business, into, last year when I resigned and I was free and I had over 20 calls of people saying, what are you doing next? I'm just gonna put my money, whatever you're gonna do, just put it in. And so when you build that with time, then people will trust you on doing anything, as long as you're a matter expert and they have that personal connection with you. It always results into a win-win situation and a positive outcome.
I wanted to follow up on that because you're selling yourself short here. You've supported a lot of women founders over the years, and you've even spoken. We met at Doha Women Forum last year, where you spoke about supporting not just your wife or people, female founders that you found talent in. So this is where it gets quite sensitive, right? Especially in a region like this. How can you build a relationship or a connection when you're a female founder looking for VCs, right? And there are initiatives now that support. Like USDP just founded the 300 program. But are there any nuances that female founders can keep in mind when they're looking for or when they're wanting to build relationships, when they know that the scope for them, if they want to look for a female investor, is small?
Generally, I would say persistence. There are a lot of things that happen within our culture that you cannot translate cultural things from a different lens, right? Like you translate cultural things from a Qatari perspective. You translate Dutch traditions from a Dutch lens. So sometimes the way of, for example, some social thing, right? Socially, if an elevator opens and there are few women inside, people would, at least here in Qatar, step out, wait for them to go up. In some cultures, they would think that was sexist or something, you see? And so it's important to understand that it doesn't come from a sexist point of view. So if it feels like that, try to break that barrier and be persistent that at the end of the day, you're a founder. Doesn't make sense, it's not about male or female. You're a founder and you just keep at it.
So own it, basically.
Own it, for sure.
Lovely. We'll come back to you, Haitham. I'll move on to Aliguma. And we spoke a little bit about reputation earlier, and personal reputation plays a big role in the Middle East. How much does a founder's personal reputation or credibility matter compared to the company's credibility?
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having us. To all the organizers, well done. This is a very beautiful ecosystem that I think we have been missing in Doha. To see that you bring all these great minds together, from all walks of life, different age groups, different talents, it means a lot. So all the organizers, well done, plus all the volunteers. So back to your question, business in Middle East mainly, it is a personal thing. No one is going to give you business if he doesn't trust you at a personal level. And in that context, it's like you need to build your brand, you as a person, before you spearhead the company. So your name or your personality becomes your brand first before the company comes in play. So it is upon that now someone will be interested in understanding what your company does or what your company is all about. So personal branding is key here. So from there, as a person, how do you build your personality? One, you need to understand the culture that you are in. Because if you don't understand the culture of the environment that you are in, it will be very challenging for you to understand how you can respect the aspect of that culture. Now, respect comes in play. How do you respect something that you don't know? So it doesn't matter how big your brand could be, but if you can't respect the culture of the environment, then you're out of business. You understand? So it goes back to the personality of a brand. Then consistency. My colleague talked about that. It is very easy to get a job. Very easy. Very easy to knock a door and someone opens for you. But the question is, if that door is opened for you, will you be able to stay in that room? And what keeps you in that room? Now, value come in play. What are you bringing on table? Both on an individual level and as a brand. You understand? So Then from that perspective, then we jump into sustainability. Can you keep your word over and over again? Because maybe in the first attempt, you can promise a good service and you can deliver. Once you deliver here, everyone will want to give you more business. Everyone will want to keep on associating with you. But can you keep that momentum? So, in those few words, I think that is what I mean from my side.
I wanted to follow up on that because what are some, I mean, surely there are founders here who are not necessarily, you know, outgoing or bubbly, or maybe sometimes you find yourself, oh, you're a bit shy. What are some communication practices you think that people, I mean, you know, whether you are a founder or want to be one or trying to seek opportunities, what are some communication practices that work best for maintaining or building relationships with no matter who you're speaking to, right?
One, you need to be very outgoing, because sometimes when you go in the business world, mainly some CEOs or founders tend to be serious with life. And trust me, in this region, if you are that much serious, sometimes you scare away potential investors and even potential customers on the other hand. People don't want to deal with people who are too serious. So you're going to have to loosen up a little bit, you know? So with that approach, still I'll give you an example. For instance, if you can find a way of convincing a kid to be your friend, then it is ideal that you can convince any investor or customer to buy your product. But if you can't convince a young kid to be your friend, then you're going to have a challenge in doing business here. So for me, I believe in that concept, and I think it can work out for some people who look forward to be CEOs or business owners in the future.
If I can add on that, in terms of communication, it's important to also use, especially if you cannot be outgoing, right? Some people like hard for them to, like they're introverts, right? Social media, and especially being loud on LinkedIn, but please, with logical posts. There is a whole subreddit called LinkedIn Lunatics. You should check it out. But yeah, being consistent on posting on a subject matter to show that you're good at something. It attracts a lot of people, and online without you having to have public speaking, events, and it helps build a personal brand. Yeah.
And I think it's also worth remembering that putting yourself out there is taking a risk, but you never know who's listening or reading something that you've written, right? You might think that it's silly or it doesn't make sense, but it might spark something in someone's mind, and then that's how they reach out to you. I'm going to come back to Fernanda in a little bit. I just wanted to remind the crowd that at any point of time, I encourage you to think about questions that you may have, because we have a Q&A session with our speakers, and it's your chance to get me to stop yapping, and then you can ask the questions.
And to jump into that, you talked about risk. Without jumping into taking risks, then you are not in business. You can't get into business if you are not willing to take risks. Risk equals to business. The higher the risk, the profitable the business could be. We say could be, not it will be. Quote that. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you, Aliguma. Fernanda, when you look at new businesses or enterprises looking to set up in Qatar, what separates those who quickly build trust and those who might struggle a little bit?
First, I need to say that you nailed on the questions, and I think it's a good build up from here. I think what Haitham mentioned about first, you need to build trust on a personal level. Somebody needs to be able to trust you personally. And then you've mentioned something about sustainability, that you also need to be able to show value. And I want to build up from those two answers, but I'm going to be a little bit technical on this. So one of the things that I see a lot, it's companies wanting to come into Qatar, and it's a quick fly in and out. And they don't really show that they are here to actually build with the market. They're here to build with the market, not to extract from it. So a really good way to show trust is by showing that you are here to build with the market. It's not going to be a quick fly in and fly out. So connecting with the local business community is very important. We've already touched on a few points on how to do it. But my advice would be always look for, when you are coming in here first, look for partners, mentors, advisors, people who know the market and can point you into the right direction, because it's an easier way for you to enter to this. And then, most importantly, show that you're here for the long term. It's not a quick come in and come out. I'm here to take money out of the market and bring it into my home country. Show that you're here to actually add value locally. There's a few techniques that I'm going to dig deeper later on, but I would say before going into any company, any partner, before pitching, first, of course, build that trust of who you are. Ali mentioned something really interesting about don't be too serious about it. There is that aspect for you to first engage with somebody. You need to be open. You need to be willing to show your own vulnerability. But most importantly, what is the value that you have to add to the other person, really? If you're not able to show this to the other person, you are talking to the wrong person, really. So research and knows what matters in the local market. Just really do your own research and see if your product is actually fit and suitable to the local market. Build credibility locally, quickly. Have a few people that you can actually name drop when you are meeting other people, just to show that you are connected and you are not alone and this is not just your first time in the market. Because trust here is not really being built by, I just need to be impressive, I just need to have a big social media following. It really is about how can you show to somebody that by them being associated with you, they're safe. So I think this is the most important point, really.
I wanted to follow up on that as well, because when we talk about reputation building, especially in a region like the GCC or the MENA region, word go around quick. Word of mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And when I came to Qatar 4 years ago, people were looking at Euronews like, oh, what is this channel? What's a European channel doing in Qatar? And I've realized that throughout the years, it's been very fulfilling, because I've approached people to interview from ministries or business leaders, and they tell me, oh, you know why I've said yes to Euronews? Only because I've heard from my friend that it was you who's conducting this interview, and she gave or he gave really good feedback about you. So word of mouth and reputation building is not just, I think, about name dropping, but also proving that you have been valuable to this other person. So can you just share a little bit more about this reputation building that you were saying earlier?
I mean, there is no way for you to build a reputation with anybody if you cannot add any value, and it could be on the smallest thing. Just sometimes people want to see you because you have a good energy or because you represent something that they're interested in. So the best way it is, have it very clear when you are in front of somebody, what is the value that you can deliver to that person? And this on itself, if you're already thinking, how can I add value to this conversation? How can I be interested, more than interesting, in that sense? Because if you have a product and you're entering a new market, you really need to listen. It's not about telling your story, it's about understanding the other story. Because you're here to serve them, you're here to serve the market. So it's really important to have that understanding, and that's a really good way for you to build that reputation over time. It's because you have that understanding.
Before we get to the Q&A session, I wanted to get everyone's thoughts here from our speakers about one cultural phenomenon, big cultural phenomenon in the GCC and the MENA region, and that is wasta. Now, over the years, it's been quite trivialized, I think, and it's oversimplified. But I wanted to start with you, Haitham, because this concept of wasta is really reputation building, right, and trust. And I feel like it comes from, all of us here must have come from, generations back. For example, every culture or region has an iteration of wasta, be it in some parts of Africa, in Turkey, in Asia where I'm from. I'm Singaporean, but ages back, my family or ancestors were from Indonesia, and we all came from tribes and villages, right? And so that's where the saying, I think, it takes a village comes from, because back then there's a you do a favor for me and I remember that and I do a favor for you. But now over the years it's become trivialized. So I wanted to, Haitham, for you to tell us this meaning, the true meaning of wasta, and where in the situation where it has become, it can be used as a leverage for good, not abused or overused.
Right. Well, wasta is really not a negative thing at all. Maybe it started with people putting people that they know without skills, but right now it's 2025. Everybody can tell through. It's very easy. Knowledge is very easily acquired. Really, what wasta is proving that you have network on steroids. It's network plus trust. Really puts. And so the minute you see that you have wasta and it's working, you know that your networking has worked. Yeah. So.
And do you believe that there are founders or small enterprises that can make it without a wasta link, maybe?
I'll be honest with you. It's hard to only get business in this region just on the competency of your product. That's something that has to be said. You can have the best product in the market. If you don't have the right network, you might not get the business you're thinking. And so landing clients, no matter how great your product is, you need that element of wasta or networking in order to sign a contract.
And moving on to Ali and Fernanda, before we wrap up here, how do people in general not see wasta as like, oh, that's my trump card, Because sometimes when you think that you have a foot in the door, you chill, you relax, and you don't innovate, you don't problem solve. How can founders, even if they know that they have this network, to always maybe use it as a last resort, or not start with it first, and to try and innovate and problem solve as much as you can, and put yourself out there without that avenue?
Yeah, as much as I believe that it is very, very important, but you yourself, or as a brand, you need to show commitment to the community. You need to show commitment to the industry and to the services that you are providing. If you don't show commitment, then wasta, on the other hand, may not really be able to help you or to support you. It can open up doors for you, like I mentioned in my first take. It may open door for you. Your uncle can open a door for you. Your friend can open a door for you. But it's not going to guarantee your stay in that room. It's going to be upon your work, your promises, and what you deliver. Wasa can open the door, but it will not promise you staying in the room. So that is what I believe.
If I can just add to that, I think I have a very technical answer to this, because not everybody has the privilege to arrive here with connections and to have a wasta. So you need to build from scratch. And the best way to build from scratch, it's the old cold calling approach. You have to start from somewhere. There are a few ways. Cold calling is definitely one of the ways. You can start in a network, but if you are a very shy person, like you're going to stand in a room like this, you're just going to want to cripple inside and hide underneath the door because it's not your type, it's not your vibe. So sometimes you really need to look for other resources. And a way to cold calling is the first thing. You need to map the ecosystem. And most importantly, know who you want to talk to. Because if you don't want who you want to talk to, you don't understand exactly what you are doing. So know who you want to talk to. This may sound obvious, but what do you want to talk about it? And why? And this is 3 very simple principles, because with this 3 answers on your head, you will be able to understand if you're approaching the right person or not. And I've mentioned this before, and I will sound redundant, but again, what's the value you can actually bring to that conversation? Why that person is actually meeting with you, meaning why their time is worth spending time with you. If you don't know how to answer this question, you're really talking to the wrong person. So just look for someone else. If you don't have any problem for that person to solve, you are not talking to the right person. Just look for someone else. So when you have this is better. So if there is no other source, definitely go for the cold calling, go for events, find mentors, find people. But another thing that I cannot say it is don't over-abuse of people who you want to ask for that wasta from. And I want to share an example. I have been a mentor for a program at QDB, and I have had a brilliant founder with a very interesting idea in a startup. He approached me, and for a few sessions we were working together. Until one day he came to me and he asked, Fernanda, can you make me some introductions? So he wanted to use my wasta. Now mind you, if you are a person who does have connections, everybody is very mindful of their connections. I'm not going to open my connections to somebody that it's just doesn't understand what's the value that they can add to the other person, so just be careful. So I have 3 very clear steps on how to approach other people based on what happened with this founder. I'll go back to the story. I asked him, who would you like me to introduce you to? He came back to me with a list of 30 of the most powerful CEOs of this country. Simply like that. And at first I was shocked because it's not how you take care of the person who has the wasta. Just say, can you introduce me to the CEO of QNB? Can you introduce me to the CEO of Qatar Energy? Can you introduce me to the CEO of Qatar Airways? I'm like, well, no. It's not like this. I really wanted to help him because he was brilliant and the startup was brilliant. But he really needs to know the value. His company was not ready to meet the CEO of Qatar Airways. You need to know the stage, where you are, where you're going, and have this very clear in your mind so you don't use your resources in the wrong time. So I think wasta is definitely important. It's not the only source, but it's very beneficial. But if you are using your wasta, definitely be mindful of how you approach the person that you're actually asking the wasta from.
That's a great tip, and that's a great reminder as well, to be realistic with your expectations when you're approaching someone with the wasta, to ask for the wasta. Thank you so much. Thank you to our speakers. I think can I open up the floor for Q&A? So yes, go ahead. Wow, it's going.
It's a question for all of you, since one of you guys are talking about wasta. Wasta is a worldwide thing, right? Sorry. Wasta is a worldwide concept, right? But not everyone has wasta. So would you agree that wasta is sometimes fair due to the person with more experience is turned down by the person who is just a family friend or a long, far cousin of the employer?
I don't think it works like that anymore. Because once you put it that way, just because it's somebody with less experience, less talent, less competency, it shows up very fast that they were put there just for the sake of wasta, And so right now, if you're going to use someone's wasta, you have to make sure that you're competent enough to take the position. Otherwise, you will burn the bridge, and that person or anybody else will never help you with their wasta or network anymore.
I think, sorry, just to add to this, it goes back to the point that I've made that you really need to be mindful of who you ask your wasta from, because you don't want to be using that resource if it's not the right fit, really.
Ali.
And yeah, to add on that still, start small, build value, and the introduction part of it will just be a bonus. You understand? Because even if someone introduces you and you provide nothing, it won't save you.
How you approach and how you pitch when you get the wasta, because at the same time, you might be, however you are presenting to the pitch or to the investor, it might be detrimental to the person that you've asked the wasta from, because this person has given them his or her trust to you to do a good job or to pitch well, right? To represent, as they say. So I think that's one thing to note as well. If anyone with the questions, if you can introduce yourself and what you do, or if you're a founder, before you ask the question, it'll be good. You can project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teddy Naroiso, and my brand is Beauty by Teddy. I've been in the makeup. I'm a makeup artist. I've been in the makeup industry for 8 years now, but 10 years in Qatar, and I'm an influencer as well. But it's kind of like difficult to stand out in some way because sometimes they don't really care about the talent. So how do you stand out in a competitive market like that?
That's a very, very, very broad question. I mean, there is no better way for you to stand out in a competitive market than just honestly being the best. You just have to show up, be the best, and be consistent, right? And it is a competitive market, and this is not unique to Qatar. It's not unique to the region. It is to the world. We live in a world that it's very competitive, and especially nowadays, the skills are showing very quickly. When you know very quickly if somebody's competent or not. But in your sector in particular, I would say what you are doing is right. I think building the influence in the right platforms, having the right people that vouch for you. Testimonials is very important. If you work with large corporate clients, build case studies, and that's a way for you to just show what's the value that you were actually able to build to your clients, and show this through other people as well, and that's a very good way for you to stand out in the crowd.
I think to add on that is, one, support local initiatives just like this, because I think we have a room of beautiful ladies here. So by them knowing that Teddy is a makeup artist is a plus and a bonus for you. So supporting this, you are supporting your own brand on the other hand as well. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Muhammad, and I'm the founder of Zero Studios. We're starting essentially an environmentally friendly production company, product production, and I wanted to ask, how do I not get seen as sort of the baby or the new kid in an industry that has some companies that are about 25 to 50 years old? How do I get taken seriously, essentially?
Well, when I first had my first investment with a few million riyals on the table, I was telling myself with everybody on the table I didn't tell them, I told myself, how can you trust me? You know, I'm just a baby, like what are you talking about? So in many cases, I was the youngest, and it always felt like that. It helps if you have a few white hairs, but
I can get a box of hair dye, no problem.
But to be honest, the minute they see what you're capable of, age disappears, right? And so, because everybody compares you to the next person or the next company that does the same product, right? With quality, price, whatever it is. So the minute you show that you actually have a value, age can actually be a positive thing towards you, not a negative thing.
All right.
I just want to add to that, and again, in very practical steps, you definitely have a pitch deck, I'm sure, that you show to partners, clients, and investors, right? Yeah. And in that pitch deck, you need to know it has to be question-proof, meaning any question anybody have about that pitch deck, you need to be able to answer with your eyes closed. Like, you need to know it. You need to know your market so well that every time you open your mouth to start talking about your company, your client's going to be, the person that you're talking to is going to be so impressed about your knowledge. So it's not about your company, it's about what you believe about your company and what you know about your company, about your market, and more specifically, where do you want to go? Do you have a map? Because that's how you actually show trust to, especially to investors. If you're looking at investors, you really need to know, this is where I am right now. I know my market very well. I know the people that are actually part of that market. I know the position that I occupy in that market, but this is where I want to go. So I think this is something very important for you to demonstrate it very clearly within your pitch deck as well.
And like they said, it's like age is just a number. And I believe it starts from your own mindset. Once you twist your mindset that I am who I say I am, then you be that. Right. You need to wire your mind in that direction. Correct. But if you use that sentence as a way of defending yourself or not saying how good you are, then it's going to affect you when you start pitching or engaging an investor. So you need to stand in the room and tell them who you think you are.
All right.
You understand? Yes. It is a mindset.
Correct.
And business is a mindset game as well. So you need to do your homework and go do the job.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
for the
you, guys.
question. We have.
Thank you, all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have time for one or two questions. Will this gentleman at the start?
My name's Abbas Akbar. Firstly, thank you to the gentlemen, to the ladies for speaking. Certainly it was insightful. I think it's fair to say that we did discuss a little bit in Vasta, and perhaps this is not a question but my 2 cents into the pond, if you will. I believe Vasta is a bond of trust. It's a social currency. Now, sometimes in any situation, as we are digital creatures today and social interactions happen through digital paradigms, if you will, these social environments these digital environments don't allow for social currency to be transferred like in a village, if you will, right? So, and therefore I think what is happening here is that bond of trust that carries with it value. And the person that is vouching for you, if you deliver value to the person to whom you're introduced to, then there will be a transference of value to the person who has introduced you, basically. But until and unless you deliver that value, I believe that you will consistently not be able to repay that person in any way, and you will not be able to ask for a secondary favor or a secondary vasta, basically, because there hasn't been a transference of social value, basically. Just like in any currency, when you write a dead check, you know, nobody's going to trust you again, if you will, right? That's the key thing. It just so happens that the digital world that we live in, these situations, these things are harder to compute. And the younger we get, the easier it is to forget that. Whereas in ancient times, when interactions were based on physical interactions, physical markets, you had to meet with somebody, as Haitham said, you had to sit in a majlis, you had to say that and you helped my grandfather way back when and his grandfather way back when, if you will, and now I'm here today and I've just happened to take a different path, if you will, to get to you. That adds social currency, if you will, that adds value. So I genuinely don't think Wasta is a good thing or a bad thing, if you will. In terms of whether, when you, as you said, you know, opening the door, when you get through the door, it's your responsibility to repay that favor, hold the door open so somebody else can walk in behind you, if you will, right? Because we are all here on the gratitude and the wasta of someone else, if you will, right? Whether you recognize that or not, no human being, like we're all indebted to our parents, if you will, right? So no human being gets here on their own. Somebody has done us a favor, you have to pass that on, if you will, right? That's just the social engineering. That's how the currency grows in a physical location, if you will. And these things are easy to forget, I believe, in a digital environment. Thank you.
And just one more, I think this gentleman just...
Okay, thank you so much. This is Zahir Ali, Managing Director at Hub 17 Startup Studio. My question to my friend Haitham. I know you did 3 successful exits before. My question is about building trust within the founding team. If I am the founder and I want to hire C-level founders, how I build that trust, and also how this could be broken in the future between the founders and co-founders. Thank you.
That's a really good question, and it's hard to answer, to be honest. Usually, if the idea comes from one person, it becomes harder to convince others, rather than the idea is mutual within a group. But finding the people that would be, if not now, at least later on, willing to take a bigger risk than a normal employee is when shows you the first signs of buying into your idea. But always, no matter what, it has to be in such a way that no matter what you brought in the idea, you're the leader, you're gonna have to inspire them and them to be inspired by you. And that's the personal, I would say, relationship where somebody would come in just because they're inspired and they're willing to take the extra mile with you. And then it comes down after that to the kind of contractual relationship that happens. So if there is anything that breaks the trust, for example, somewhere midway the journey, they just get another job and leave you. Or break an NDA or something, like goes to a competition, you know. I think no matter what, there is somebody before my first ever startup in 2014, there is somebody who told me partnerships in building a company are harder than marriage. Right, in marriage you can divorce, partnership you cannot. You know, and so you need to make sure that you have the right guide rails, no matter how much you trust them and they buy into the idea, to make sure if they, you know, do something to break that trust, you still can come out, you know, kind of like disappointed, but not broken as a business. I mean, this is in general. I don't know if I answered it, but, you know, this is kind of like the general idea. Yeah, yeah.
On that note, will you three be my wasta? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around and listening, and your questions as well. Thank you. I hope everyone had a really nice time and have takeaways to bring and share with your friends as well. Thank you. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you so much.